Hey all, welcome to A Fistful of Dice. Today's video we're going to be talking about DM tools of the trade, the things that I use at the table to make DMing easier for me, to enhance the game for the players, and just generally try to take my game to a higher level if I can. So I'm interested to see what kind of tools you guys use at the table or in your prep or anything like that. So if you want to leave a video response or a comment, please do so. So here's just some of the tools I use. The first one is note cards, index cards. I personally like to use colored index cards here. So you see I've got some white, some orange, some pink, some green, and some yellow. And what I do is I like to color code my note cards. Usually I'll do like plot elements with one color, NPCs in another color, encounters in another color, maybe magical items in another color. And that way, I kind of have my notes for the session kind of out in front of me. I actually have another video I'll link up below where I'm prepping for a session using note cards. And I've kind of got them out in front of me, and I can kind of rearrange them however I want based on what's happening with the players. If they're in a certain room, I pull out the location card, so I have my notes on what the location looks like, what it smells like, what sort of things they might find in there. And then in addition to that, I might have 2 cards for encounters that are going to happen there, and some cards for some loot that they're going to pick up, or a card for an NPC that they're going to interact with there. And that way I can kind of keep really organized, and then whenever they leave that location, I just kind of sweep all those cards up and put them off to the side. I don't have to worry about them anymore. It's much more manageable for me than a bunch of pages of notes, which is how I used to do things. I used to just kind of take a spiral notebook and just kind of write all my notes kind of on the session, or I would type them out and print them out. But I definitely prefer writing on the note cards just because it's much more easier to manage having everything kind of be on separate little pieces of paper. One thing about the note cards too is that it limits you. It actually has it's a physical limitation. You cannot write too much on these. You can only write a little bit, so it kind of promotes improv, coming up with stuff on the fly. You just have the barest essentials written on these cards, just the core information, and then you can kind of build upon that, which is an essential skill for DMs to have, is improving and kind of exposing and coming up with stuff on the fly. Another tool I have, and I've talked about this a lot, is this little speaker here. And I've got a few different speakers that I use. Even just some old computer speakers will work, or a stereo, or even if you have like an Xbox hooked up to your TV and you've got the sound going through it, or whatever. I use this for music and for ambiance. I am a huge fan of playing music that is appropriate to what's happening in the game. So if they're just exploring, I might have just some ambiance going, some really quiet kind of music with some nature sounds on it. If they're in combat, I like to use like video game combat music, stuff like that. Really just kind of stuff to get them in the moment, get them in the feel for the game. And I know for me as a player, music helps a lot to get me into the spirit of the game, get me into character, things like that. Something I've been using a lot recently is actually Spotify. I have a Spotify, what's it called, Premium or something like that? I can't remember, but Spotify is just one service that allows you to do. I know Pandora has a thing, and things like that allow you to just kind of stream music and find music just kind of on the fly for things that you need. For my Call of Cthulhu sessions, I've been using a lot of. There's a couple of actually Cthulhu albums on Spotify where people have made albums kind of inspired by Lovecraft's stories, and they're really perfect for running Call of Cthulhu. So something like that. But even if you just have iTunes or just some music on a hard drive or something, you can just kind of play that and get your players in the feel for the game. Another thing I use almost every session is maps. Either maps that I've drawn or pre-made maps. I have a ton of pre-made maps that I've collected over the years. Whenever I see new maps come out, or whenever someone's selling some of their old maps, I grab them up. I've got a whole drawer of these maps, just different maps for every type of situation, And these really help for just kind of, the players, all of a sudden the players decide they want to get on a boat. You know what? I've got a map for that. I can run with this. I've got a map of a boat. I can run an encounter on this boat if I need to. I'm a big maps and minis guy. I know not everyone is, but I like having the visual representation for the players to use, especially in combat. So I have a whole ton of these, and I also have a lot of dungeon tiles and things like that to help. Really, whatever I need, I've got it there. Whatever sort of location or dungeon I want to run, I've got it. The next thing I use a lot is a whiteboard. Now this is a small whiteboard. This is one that I use kind of for my own personal notes, but I also have a larger whiteboard near my game table. And I use the whiteboard to write down initiative orders so the players see, the initiative order, write down little notes that the players might want to remember or write down, like, oh, hey, they just met an important NPC. I'm going to write his name on the board. So that way they can remember who he is, and they're not sitting there going, well, we just talked to what's his name. They can go, we just talked to, John Wayne or whatever, whatever the guy's name is, I'll write it on the board. Or if they, a specific item or a location, it's really handy to just have a whiteboard where you can just write out that stuff. I'll also use it to write out, like, if someone casts a spell, like someone casts Bark Skin, I'll write down, okay, this character casts Bark Skin, it's going to last for this long, gives them +1 AC or whatever, or +2 AC. So they remember that that's on. Obviously they're keeping track of it, but, everyone's kind of aware of what sort of magical effects are going on, or, who's activated what or whatever. So having a kind of a large writable space next to you is very handy. It's very, very nice to use. Also, if you like to run the game without maps, it's nice to kind of draw out locations, or I'll use it for overland maps, like, okay, you're here in this village, you need to get up here, there's a forest in between you and there. You can kind of visually represent different things like that to your players, so it's very handy. Another thing I use, and most DMs have one of these, is the adventure binder. My adventure binder, I haven't updated it in a while, so I need to get in there and update it, but it's got lots of different stuff in it. Mostly it's got random tables, random roll tables from various Pathfinder and D&D books, so that I can roll up different things that I need to roll up. Stuff like that. It also has like the Book of Challenges from 3rd edition, which is a bunch of different puzzles and things like that. DM Johnny's puzzle ebook, things like that. Very nice for prepping and also kind of on the fly if I'm really kind of strapped for creative juices. Nice to be able to haul this thing out and roll some random encounters or a random puzzle or a random dungeon or whatever I need. The last tool I use, and I know not everyone has access to something like this, but it's a tablet. I personally have an iPad. It's a super old iPad. It's like 1st generation. It hardly runs anything anymore, but it runs a lot of different Pathfinder apps, like the Pathfinder source reference document. I have immediate access on my iPad. I run encounters with a really nice Pathfinder encounter software in here. I think it's called PF Battles. Yeah, PF Battles. So things like that. I don't like to keep my notes for the session on the iPad, though, because I find that I'm just not quick enough for pulling them up and looking at them. For that, I still prefer the handwritten note cards, but for running encounters, things like that, I like the iPad. Also, it's nice to be able to, if I have a picture of something, I can just kind of bring it up and pass it around, show the PCs. It's like, oh, you see something that looks like this, and I'll, show them a picture or whatever. That doesn't happen very often, but it's nice to be able to have. So technology is very nice. I'm not a big fan of like laptops and stuff at the table, but for me personally, as a DM, I do like using the tablet from time to time. So those are my tools of the trade. What do you guys use at your table or in your prep to enhance your game? I'm interested to know. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it from me. Take care and happy gaming all.